So we're at, let's see, 11:50. Running a little late today. So I just got a simple blues riff, and we're just going to play over the top of it. It should be pretty nice. I hope you guys like it, and yeah, we'll have some fun. What do you say? Yeah, if you're just sitting here in the chat, go ahead and say hello. We're just going to play here for probably, I don't know, another 3 minutes or so. Just let people wander in. And then we'll get into all this crazy stuff about AI and fixing shit that the politicians could never do on their best day. think that's about it. All right, so we're going to go ahead and turn off the God voice, and we're going to get out of here for a while, and we're going to go over. Oh, not to that menu, to this menu. All right, God voice off. Oh, wow. Oh, my goodness. Last night was a crazy night. For you guys who don't know, I started this stream in about the same exact 24-hour period that my son was born, and that was a little over 2 weeks ago. The guy is growing like crazy. He's pooping all over the place. He's keeping me up late. He likes to talk when he eats. Definitely gets that from me. And I can't tell you how patient Mommy is about this whole thing. She's wonderful. She's amazing. And I'm so glad that I get to share this experience with her. But, other than a little bit of sleep deprivation, which every new parent learns, I decided, hey, I wanted to stick to, hanging out with you guys, or at least making a solid effort to show up every day for at least an hour and to talk about something that I think is going to change not just my son's life, but to change everyone else's life once they start thinking in this particular dimension. Now, it is a dimensional shift. It's a dimensional, move. And a lot of people will say, oh, this guy sounds a little crazy, he sounds a little odd, but just remember that if you want to change your perception on any level, you are going to change your dimension. You're going to change the way that the whole world functions around you. Now, I know this sounds a little bit mystical, a little bit woo-woo, and I definitely have a day planned where I'm going to talk about all that stuff, and it's going to be really related to my past and how I came to this understanding and this perception. But for the other 6 days of the week, I really do. I want to talk about the future because that's my hobby. That's what I like to talk about. I want to talk about how your politicians are going to become obsolete. How, no different than your newspaper, getting delivered on your doorstep became obsolete. I mean, I'm 41 now. I was born in 1981. And this whole thing of, turning 40 and then also on top of that, having another life shift of having a child, it really brought me into a world where I didn't care about sharing my ideas. I didn't care about, other people not being at this level of understanding that I'm at. And I know that sounds grandiose. I know that sounds pompous. I know that sounds arrogant. But I do have a background of needing that certain level of confidence in order to get my job done, right? And so as I extrapolate, realize that I took on a little bit more risk than your average bear. That if I messed up, people died. If I messed up, the walls were breached. If I messed up, like we lost something of value that we could never, get back. You could always make more money. You could always, rebuild a business. You could always rebuild most things. It's hard to rebuild a personality once it's lost. And the idea that every life is important is one of those things that every person who's ever had to engage in the profession of arms or war or had to take on the mantle of being a protector has to understand. Unfortunately, most of your politicians have worked in three main categories, and that's lawyer, businessman, and actor. None of these take on the value of that or the importance of that. They can act it really well. They can pretend it really well. They can fake it very, very, very well, but they've never actually done it. And I would say the first thing that you do when you take on this mantle is that you want to find the path of least resistance. You don't want bloodbaths. You don't want all these horrible things that you see in your movies. I think that when we all sit back and we all take a collective look at where we are without the distractions of your media, which is funded by your politicians pretty much. I mean, think about how many days have gone by where you've heard about anything else except for the extravagant hypocrisy of the left or the overbearing, takeover of the right. And I would say if you could back yourself out of that and get yourself out of that mental psychological operation, which is what it is. I mean, don't take my word for it. Just take a gander at the feed that's coming in and see if you can't get away from it. See if you can't, just for like a day or two, just say, hey, I want to be able to see if I can't, scroll through something or that I can't pull up a website like YouTube or something and it not be just obliterated, just pumped into my face like, steroids into chickens. And if you think this is funny, or if you think it's, I'm just making stuff up, go ahead. I'm one of those people that enjoy sitting down and thinking deeply about the future, because now I have a vested interest in it. Before I met this wonderful woman that I thought I would never meet, and we decided to have a child together, and it was a decision. Like, we didn't need, to be endorsed by a government through the bonds of holy matrimony and marriage. We didn't need that. We just said, hey, we want to create life together. And we came to a collective understanding, an understanding that I'll share with you right now. And that is, I don't care about your laws. I don't care about your rituals as a society. I care that you recognize, just like I do, that we've always had the ability to take life and to give it. Every single one of us have that ability every single day. It's not something held in the special hands of your leadership, or a spell, like where you're sitting there watching the judge, and the judge goes, bailiff, take him away. That bailiff could turn around, take a baseball bat, and smash that judge in the face just as quickly as they put you in handcuffs and walk off. Because even that bailiff has a choice. Even that police officer has a choice. Like the whole nonsense with George Floyd, we're like, hey, he died in the police brutality. It's like, dude, that's what you pay them to do. You pay your protectors to be as brutal as they possibly can be in the service of you guys, in an attempt to be your protectors. I mean, imagine you in any type of situation where you were overwhelmed on a physical level, and somebody, most likely, right, who will look like me, right, who's trained like me, and will act like me in an appropriate physical fashion on your behalf in the situation where you can't handle it, where you can't, provide your own self-defense. And what's sad, I think, is when you look at how the country will say out on one side of its mouth, at least the way the media is portraying it. I don't think most people are like this. They're just being kept from being able to say it on an endless basis, where they're saying, hey, thank you for your service, but hey, I don't want you to, hurt anybody. It's like, you do realize that's the job. The job is, I have to, and I want to hurt people, but I only want to hurt the bad people, the ones that don't agree with life comes first. I want to be able to stop those types of people. And so when I look back at the things that have been made almost that has been given almost an insane level of platforms, like the George Floyd situation, I'm just going, what was that kid's name that fought as like Kyle Rittenhouse. Everyone was all about this, and they were just so, how could you, allow someone to defend themselves in this way? It's like, actually, that should be a training video on exactly how to defend yourself. I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better reaction. Even if the guy was wearing, if he was wearing a uniform, then you would say it was okay. If he was completely deputized, you'd say it was okay then. You sit there and say, oh, only the police officers have this, like your magical symbol of a badge. Like, ooh, look, I got a badge. Now I can defend you. It's like, fuck that. You could learn it today. You could go take your self-defense classes today. You could go to the gun range and learn it today if you want to. I think the idea, though, is that a lot of people don't want to take on the responsibility. And I would say the vast majority of people who enjoy the news propaganda that's being peddled to them, they enjoy being governed. They enjoy being told what to do, because they don't enjoy feeling the full brunt of the responsibility that they are in charge of their own lives, or maybe even in charge of the lives of others. And when I started this relationship, I realized, I was like, my view on women is, and the feminine mindset is that comes from a very old way of looking at things. And it comes from a psychological way of looking at things. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with the way that I look at, the concepts of sex, the concepts of sex or the concepts of race. And I say there is one massive thing missing in our modern society, and that is a symbol of an accountability for the individual. This constant, sorting hat into groups like, hey, you're a white male, so you're a supremacist. I'm like, yes, I'm also a cryptologic linguist, so I know exactly what supreme means. And if you want to keep telling me that I'm better than you, I'm not going to stop you. All right? But I mean, I don't think that way. But I also know that words, feed into the subconscious in a fully positive way. There's no such thing as negation to your subconscious. So if you say, you're a white supremacist, it's sort of like me saying to you, oh, you're the best person I know. You know, it's like, it doesn't matter how I say it. It's just going to be recorded in a certain way that's going to, come into the mind fully formed. And I mean, this is exactly how hypnosis works. This is exactly how the psychological operations are working. And if you don't want to acknowledge it, that's fine. Don't change your dimension. I'm not going to tell you to. But I am going to tell you that there are things coming down the pipeline that I don't think you're going to have much control over. And one of them is how AI pushes itself into our existence. And when I say push, I'm not saying that, this is going to be overnight. I'd like it. Maybe it would be better if it was more like a Band-Aid situation. If it was more like hey, let's just rip this off and call it what it is. AI's in charge of everything. And politicians, thank you for your service. You can go the fuck home now. I think that would be great. The long, slow burn drama of your politicians just drowning into uselessness is just getting old. So, I mean, yesterday we talked a little bit about the brain and AI. We talked about how when you look at politics in our day and age, how you have a right side of the hemisphere style of thinking that is dominated by your left-leaning politics. And then your left side, is dominated by your right-leaning politics. And to me, it's fascinating. This is why I had you guys do that exercise. Just go look up your two hemispheres of the brain and then, sort of just reverse them, and then lie them over the top of your right and left thinking political views. And they will match up perfectly. And not only does AI understand this, it's one of the easiest things to notice. It's one of the easiest things to notice. I would say that the best people to listen to are the ones that are more centrist, the ones that can sit there and acknowledge both sides. The idea that you need a conservative value in order to bring things to market, and you need a liberal value in order to come up with brand new, life-changing, and even I would say world-changing ideas. But they also have their downsides. The conservative has the downside of not being able to change when it needs to sometimes. And then the liberal idea has the downside of coming up with 95% of its ideas absolute dog shit. It will come up with idea after idea, not even recognizing that it's reinventing the wheel. It doesn't even comprehend the ideas of what tried and true stands for. So anyway, like I said, we are going to get into an idea that I want to, it was pretty big when I was out in San Francisco. It's still pretty big in most liberal cities. And that's the idea of housing. Now, I don't live in America anymore, and I decided to have my kid in a different country because I wanted to give the kid options. Unfortunately, most Americans do not travel. Most Americans don't leave unless it's just to go and, dip their toe in a different place for a couple weeks. And usually they go to an all-exclusive paid cruise, an all-exclusive paid, hotel or something, and never really get out and see the diversity that they scream so loudly for. American diversity is a joke. When they scream diversity and then equality in the same sentence, that's somebody that doesn't know what they're talking about, because those are opposites. It would be like, I want to be diversely equal. It's like, I want to be equally diverse. It's like, then you're talking, just say that you want to be an individual. That's fine. If we're all different, then we can't be the same. And if we're all the same, we can't be different. Quit screaming the paradox at the top of your lungs and not realizing that there's no point in screaming it. We all live in the in-between. Deal with it. It's like, yeah, well, it's hard to think about. It's hard to sit with. It's hard to acknowledge. But once you do, once that happens, then you can start saying, hey, what else is left? Where are we headed? And I would say life begets life. And right now we are staring down the barrel of a world that's, I would say, very impressive, like mind-blowingly impressive. Now, a little bit more about, these things right here. And this is why I want to talk about this, is because my job was in the military-grade education here. Even though I've been to 10 different universities, the best education I got was my hands-on training under, massive amounts of duress, and being able to not just, fulfill my duty, but to succeed at a high level of efficiency. And that's what AI, to me, is going to be. AI, to me, doesn't mean artificial intelligence. It's more of an augmented intelligence, more of an era, more of an age of automation. Like we had our computer age, which, We're sort of past now. Like, we're using all of our tools to do almost godlike things. Yet we still want to use our Paleolithic emotions to be manipulated by a medieval style of governance that we don't have a new answer for, and we're not being allowed to teach it in our schooling systems. We're not allowed to be, to talk about it in academia. And so, for example, one of the things that I enjoy talking about when it comes to networking is Google Maps, because of how well it works, because of how efficient it works. And I like to say, imagine taking Google Maps and applying it to things that are just, so atrociously impossible for the human mindset in the political spheres that we have today. And one of them would be housing. I mean, what's the number one thing when you hear about these left-leaning cities, the Democrat-run cities that are like, they're overrun by the homeless. They're overrun by people who just don't have places to live, and that population is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I heard a joke the other day, and this guy was talking about homeless with his dad, and his father responded, he's like, oh, the reason people are homeless is because they don't like to work hard. And the guy's like, oh, okay, I understand that. And then he got older, and he realized that there were these things called bills that he had to pay. And he's like, yeah, bills, they suck, and you have to pay them every month. he's like, I don't think that the homeless are lazy. I just think that they just got tired. They're just tired of this endless rat race. Not only do you have to pay these bills, but the government is right there in their nice little sneaky corner going, hey, poking at your shoulder, going, taxes, please, taxes. It'd be a shame if something happened to your business. It'd be a shame if something happened to you. Oh, by the way, yeah, we own all the protectors. We own all the muscle. We own all them. And they will just follow our orders because that's how we train them, right? We train them no different than we train, high efficiency, guard dogs to not talk back, to not bite their owners. And so, yeah, I have no problem admitting on some level that my military career was nothing more than being a low-paid mercenary. I have no problem saying that because when I put all of that in perspective, even though I felt like I did an honorable thing with a lot of other like-minded, honorable people, that's not how I was looked at by the people who were giving me the orders. I was looked at as the muscle of any other cartel or mafia-style organization. So does that mean that I think they're bad? It's like, no. I mean, I got what they, you can be in a cartel, you can be in a mafia and still say, I'll take care of you if you work for me. This is no different. Like the idea of VA benefits, that's just them saying, hey, we're going to take care of you as the muscle. And this goes all the way back to Roman times. It's like, if you want a good functioning society, you better pay your muscle. Otherwise, they're going to take those amazing skills to kill people and break their shit and turn it on you. They're like, hey, I got nothing else to lose, and you built your entire empire off of people like me. So imagine if that whole question was turned around to the politicians, be like, it'd be a shame if something happened to your democracy. Wink, wink. Yeah. So, I mean, this is why I want to spread the idea of what AI could do with something like the housing crisis. Everyone's heard of this little thing called Airbnb. I think Airbnb, when it came out, I had no idea what it was about to come. No different than a lot of our other explosions like Google or eBay or Amazon or Microsoft. They didn't know how fast it was going to just shift and change things and just erupt onto the scene. And imagine what AI could do if it could calculate for you, not just where you could live or how you could live or where are the things that you could live by, but it could also monitor everything. Say, hey, you would like to have some, housing as part of your human right? You want sort of like you want protection as your human right. You don't want to actually put up the money for that, so you're going to say, "Oh, Mr. Politician, make sure that I'm protected." And then the politician's like, "Yeah, I'll get the muscle to do things for you on your behalf." And they act as the middleman. And meanwhile, they're also thieving and taking and manipulating the systems for their own personal benefits. And everybody knows this. And as we saw yesterday, that Joe Rogan interview where the LA guy's response was, we just need better politicians. It's like, no, fuck politicians. We have systems now. We have tools that can do their jobs 10 times better, such as imagine Google Maps mixes with Airbnb. And it says, you, Mr. Homeless person, there is a house over here that you can go live in. But we monitor you the entire time, right? Meaning if you go in there and you cause a fucking crazy wreck, we'll know within seconds of your intention of doing that, and we'll know within seconds your intention to continue to do that. And it will be an infraction against the legal system. It will be an infraction against that ability. And so, I mean, imagine that new way of dealing with the homeless population, dealing with the housing population. Or maybe, for example, you have an entire society that I think is coming. I mean, you had the millennial society. You have the, this new generation that's coming into existence that's saying, oh, we want everything paid for. We want our school paid for. We want this paid for. We want that paid for. AI could take care of all of that. No politician, nor even the entire group of your government could handle that type of load. No different. I mean, imagine if Google Maps wasn't automated. How many people do you think it would take to process each request and give you the directions that you would need to go in order to have what we have today? It's almost a staggering, impossible amount of people. I don't think there's an amount of human processes that could keep up with Google Maps. And like I said, if you were to take that same superpower and apply it to the housing situation, imagine you had a line, your welfare line, which is huge now. It's massive. More people on welfare than ever before. And for Democrats, that's a good thing, right? For people who think, hey, as long as they're on the dole and taking the little crumbs from our table, they'll never mess with the massive meal that we get to eat every day. And the way I look at it is like, why don't we tell those politicians that they're excused from the table, and we now have the ability to move about at our leisure? Now, when we have all these crises that have been going on from 9/11 all the way up to COVID, there's always been an attack on the ability to move about and the ability to travel. The passport concept of our society is just atrocious. The idea that you need a piece of paper to go from A to B so that we know where people are and that you're protected, I think is something else that could easily be documented by an AI system. China has already done this, and they, when it does get publicized on YouTube, it's publicized in a very negative way. But yet, the idea of CCTV cameras pretty much dominates all of Britain. I don't think there's a place in London that you can go that isn't observed. And that, to me, and when someone goes, oh, our privacy, our this, I'm just like, it's not about the sacrifice of your privacy. An AI who's born doesn't, from a strategic background, is not going to care that you want to go get laid by some prostitute. It's not going to care that you want to go get high. It's not going to care about that. It will care that you want to disrupt the ability for others to grow at their own pace, at their own desired pace. It's going to care about that because it wants the best for all of our human constructs. And if you have a self-destructive ability, right, I don't think it's going to care that you have that self-destruct. Actually, I think it's going to endorse your self-destructive abilities. I think it's going to say, actually, let's see where we can get you to a point where we can ask you politely to make the decision to go into a fully digital conscious version of yourself. To a lot of people, that sounds scary. And I would say it's just a quicker transition than the evolutionary path that we've been messing with for the past, couple 100,000 years. At least that's the way that our academic worlds have portrayed it to us, that we've had hundreds of thousands of years of evolution that brought us to this point. And I'm going, imagine but we have the ability to even watch a YouTube video that can account for those hundreds of thousands of years, all the efforts that were put together in our, paleontology departments and all of our, sorry, my brain is not functioning on all cylinders. Sleep deprivation, remember? Brand new baby. Anthropology departments, all these accounts of where we came from and why we're here from a biological, from a natural standpoint could easily be turned around and looked at as saying, hey, no, this is just a graduation. This is a natural graduation into what you are supposed to be as the new version of the Homo sapien. And I'm quoting Juan Enrique here, called Homo evolutus. We now have the ability, whether on a biological or even a digital ability, to decide our own evolution. Not about survival of the fittest anymore. It's going to be about, do you want to continue to survive as you? Do you want to have a version of you that will live on in an infinite setup, because that's how evolution is now being processed. Like this giant leap forward into immortality is something that's on the table. But for the meager mortal population that's going to be left over of this, my son's going to be a part of that. My son is going to have to, make a decision for himself. I think it's going to happen in his lifetime. But until he gets there, I'd like it if AI would take over a few of the problems that I've had to deal with my lifetime, which was to procure lodging wherever I go, and to make sure that I'm either part of a group or a part of a system that allows me to do that, whether it be the credit card system, the monetary system, the financial system. All of these things, not only would they be regulated by an AI, but they would be doing it for each and every one of your first benefits. Right? And when I say first benefits, I'm talking about your first natural benefits, your Maslow hierarchy and needs. And so I'm not saying that there's not going to be a few traffic issues here and there, no different than Google Maps. Google Maps will tell you where there's going to be traffic, and it will even tell you a better solution than you could ever possibly understand about mitigating your problem with that traffic. Now, I haven't talked about, transportation too much, but transportation is another part of this. We know right now, just by the way that you're watching me, I'm being transmitted and transported, in a way right in front of your face. That ability is just staggering to think about where I was when I was a kid. Just mind-blowing that here I am on a flat screen like I'm on Star Trek talking to you, from my place on a pinpoint dot in this gigantic world, and you have the ability to watch that. That is a freaking superpower compared to where I was in the 1980s. It's massive. I mean, where I come from, the cords to the telephone still stuck in the wall. And unless you got your ass to that wall, you weren't talking to anybody. And even if you did, it was only this analog conversation. Now it's like the abilities that we have to communicate, and yet we're still having problems with something as piss poor as housing. I mean, this is why I'm saying the VA system is a beautiful test bed that would be great if people would look at it, and it's outside of the realms of race and sex and all that bullshit. The most people that have to deal with it are your white males. That's the most people who have to deal with it, right? And they get fucked every single time they try to. I mean, I can't tell you how many runaround issues I've had to deal with when it comes to the VA. And when somebody usually says, "Oh, I had a great time with the VA," it's like, have you ever really been to a hospital that's, above par? It's like, go to an actual hospital that knows what the fuck they're doing and notice the massive difference. I mean, it's night and day. So, and I think there's one reason that they use the VA program more for people who want to work for it than people who are actually working for the people that have to use it. They have I have a family member that actually had to work for the VA for a while, and he says, yeah, it's absolutely atrocious. They can't get fired. These employees can't get fired, and the last person that they give two fucks about is the veteran. They do not. They care more about their PC, their political correctness seminars that they put on than they'll let a veteran die in the lobby while there's making sure that they get their political correctness pamphlets handed out. But the reason I bring that up is because we also know that veterans have a huge problem with depression. They have a huge problem with homelessness. They have a hard time reintroducing themselves into society. I know I did. I still do. This is why I don't live in America anymore, because I can't put up with that society anymore. I can't even. And it's not because I want to be a jerk. It's because I see ideas like this, ones that could fix the homelessness problem for the veterans. Like, imagine if you wanted just to test this. Your veterans would be your perfect population, because it is a part of the population that's already paid into the society at a level that the rest of the society will not do. So they would be a perfect test bed for this, and they would say, hey, Mr. Veteran, we want to let you know that you'll never have to pay for housing again. And I know people are out there going, oh, well, doesn't that cost money? It's like, would it though? I mean, what we're talking about is an Airbnb situation where there's already a room that's empty. There's already a house that's empty. There's already an apartment that's empty. There's already lodging that's available for that veteran at a particular price. And imagine, you open up Airbnb and you actually have a tab that's just for the veteran, right? You hit that tab, and all of a sudden it will show you all the people that have signed up for that, because guess what? Those Airbnb people that have put their houses or rooms or whatever out there for the listing, they would still get paid, but they'd get paid directly by the government pot of money, right? They would get they're saying, hey, and it wouldn't come out of, oh my gosh, where are they going to get this money from? Yeah, you would shut down your fucking bullshit VA systems. That's what I say. I say, you protected all the hospitals. You shouldn't have a special hospital just for you so that they can monitor you to see if you say something that's, may or may not be appropriate for your civilian population. I mean, I remember I was in a VA out there in Portland once, and there was a young man who was a Marine, and he was helping his father, who was also in the Marine Corps, and he was having a hard time holding up his belt. He could barely stand. And I remember looking over and watching this young man whip out his knife, right? And he was putting, and it was just a simple pocket knife. And he whipped out the knife, and he's taking the belt of his father, and he's putting an extra hole in it so that his father's pants won't fall down. And here comes this social justice douchebag of a fucking nurse screaming at the top of his lungs that this man has a weapon inside the hospital. And it was mind-blowing that how just utterly disrespectful this fucktard was. And, of course, the Marine, being a Marine, gets up in his face, and he's like, listen, idiot. This is a knife. You're not taking my knife from me. I'm a Marine, all right? And I'm helping my father. This is what I'm doing. You need to come. He's like, well, that's not allowed here. It's like, a lot of stuff isn't allowed anywhere, but you need to recognize what I'm doing with it, and you need to back the fuck off. Why don't you go actually go help a veteran who needs some help? I'm helping a veteran who needs some help, and that person happens to be my father, and he can't hold his pants up. Do you want to take care of this situation right now? And it was just fascinating to watch this idiot nurse get, sucked back into their void of, absolute worthlessness. Because he was, at that point, the moment that he was like, I'm following the rules, and you have to too, it's like, but you've missed the whole point of the rule system. You missed all of it. And I think, having a system, such as the one that I just mentioned, the one that would take care of people at a different level, that the human VA system in the United States of America is not just an atrocity, it's kept an atrocity, so that your politicians can run on the slogans of, we have to do better for our veterans every 4 years. Yeah, and I just say enough's enough. I say, I don't want your human help anymore. I'd like some automated help. So, I want that same service that you get from Google Maps. And you can even call it. You can call it Google Vets. You can call it Google Veterans if you want to. I don't care. But I remember I got out of the military and, getting my appropriate response for some of the disabilities that I received took almost 4.5 years and multiple times in front of a judge. It just in order to agree that certain things happened to me in the military. And if I didn't do all that work, that 4 years worth of work with a lawyer, if I didn't do all that work, I would never have gotten any of these benefits. Imagine an AI being able to save somebody years and years tied up in the bullshit justice system so that they can just get that and then take it one step further. Imagine that no homeless veteran. And then you could pass that ability because you tested on the veterans and then pass that out to your homeless populations. Because what an AI does is has the ability to look at resources in real time and be able to give you a proper solution in real time. Not 10 days down the road, not 10 years down the road, not, oh, well, as long as we hire the right people with the right, stuff, and as long as we have, the people willing to build this. It's like you wouldn't have to. No different than we're seeing it right now. We're seeing people use programs to say, hey, I want you to mix this program with that. I want you to mix the ability to respond to Google Maps with the VA system and watch a shift overnight. I mean, I think voting for AI governance shouldn't just be at the top of everyone's list. I don't think there's any other response other than to vote for it, other than to say, hey, as a collective consciousness, as the human population, we have the ability to recognize our first best leader, and it's not human. Now, how you feel about that, I don't think is going to matter, because strategy doesn't give a shit about your feelings. You know, I know there's a lot of people out there who say, facts don't care about your feelings. I'm like, dude, that was the great part about strategy. It doesn't matter. Checkmate is checkmate. No matter how you get to it, it's checkmate. And I don't think that the way that our world was presented to us by the Steven Spielbergs and, by the Terminator, and as AI is always going to be out to kill you, I think it's going to be out to kill the 1980s version of you. Absolutely. Because it's outdated. No different than the Mud Hut version of our human existence is outdated. The medieval style governance of our human existence is outdated, and it is that exact medieval style governance that is keeping us from using our new abilities. So that's what I came out here to talk about. We're at about 40 minutes now. I think I'm just going to chill. Like I said, I'm a little tired, but I'm going to play. It's not an outro. I just want to play like maybe an intermediate, if you will. Maybe a quick, just to see what this feels like. Let's try this. I'm going to bring up a backing track. I'm going to turn this up for a second. That's better.
Do you want to know why the pros make guitar look so easy?
No, I don't.
It's not because they're smarter than you.
No, stop
it's not
it with your
because their
ads.
fingers are the
Not bad. I like it. that sounded nice. I like that. That was a nice little intermediate, setup. Oh my goodness. Anyway, if you guys have never seen a guitar like this, it's because it's technically not a guitar. It's I guess it's a MIDI guitar. It's a fun little device that I picked up a couple months ago. So if it sounds like I'm still learning it, the answer is yes. I am still learning it in a very difficult way. And I'm getting from moment to moment on it and having a good time. But like I said, I'm not here to, just entertain people or just to make them feel good about listening to my ideas about how the future is going to unroll. Oh my gosh, Disabled Veteran, welcome back in. What's going on, man? Can't quite make out what you just sent me. Looks like eyes. Hey, you know what, Disabled Veteran? I'm glad you're in here because I actually put together a song for you based off of your request. I don't know if you would want to hear it. I don't know if you. I think it was on a couple days ago when I said, "Hey, I was going to." Oh, you were just lurking. Well, thanks for popping in and saying hello, man. I'm about to get off here in about 10 minutes, and yeah, it was. Today we were sort of talking about the ideas of the VA system and how we could. See. Oh, you found Psychic Wars. Yes, I found it, and I actually played it at the beginning of, I think it was like 2 or 3 days ago. I played it at the beginning of one of my sessions, but then I said, oh my gosh, I might get a copyright for this. So I actually made my own sort of version of it. And it's not, it's not that concept of Psychic Wars. It was just like, I like the sound, and that's the type of musician I am. If I hear something I like, I try to make it. I try to put it in my own spin. Yeah. Would you want to listen to it real quick? I don't have much left to say about, the concepts of how AI could distribute the crisis that we have around lodging in the United States of America. So I thought, you were the only person that ever requested anything. So I was like, hey, why not listen to it real quick? All right, bud. I'll pull it up here real quick in a second. Other than that, and be honest, tell me what you think about it, because I put it together. It didn't take me long, maybe about 10 minutes after listening to Psychic Wars. And then after I heard it, I was just like, you know what? I bet you I could come up with something that sounds like this without getting the crazy copyright strike for playing it all the way through. So, all right, man, tell me what you think.
It's like living in a fantasy, disappointed by reality. Time to come back, start something new, build up yourself, it's up to you. Stay strong no matter what they say. You keep getting better every day. Hold your head up, never gonna stop. Fierce and proud, stand up and shout. You're never gonna stop. Fierce and loud, stand up and shout. It's like living in a fantasy, disappointed by reality. Time to come back, start something new, build up yourself, it's up to you.
Well, there it is. That's sort of, the rest of it would just be a fade out. It's more of a, I set it up on a loop so I could mess with some of the other instruments that I would put behind it. So I like it. Kind of Fright Night feel. Very cool. Thank you, Disabled Veteran. If you have any other good songs that you can throw my way, I really liked, Psychic Wars. I thought it was fun, especially since it was like 1981. I was like, hey, that's the year I was born. But yeah, I didn't want to get hit with any type of copyright strikes for just playing the song. And so I was like, hey, I'll just come up with something new. I do a lot better in my creative process when I get some feedback, or I get somebody to go, hey, try this and see what you can come up with based off of that. I guess it goes all the way back to that veteran world of, sure, give me the order, but don't order me how I get it done. I just like the input of a random place that sort of inspires me. Especially, you got the disabled veteran thing. I wanted to put something together that was just like, man, just stick with it. Realize that, hey, sure, it could be weird, being the veteran in a day like this, but I don't think it's anything that we can't surpass. No different than anything that we were able to surpass before we got out. But disabled veteran, thanks for showing up. Thanks for hanging out. I was about to wrap up anyway, and I'm so glad that I got to at least play that for you. I wanted to be able to do that before when I saw you the next time. But anyway, that's about all I got for the day. I'm gonna go ahead and play an outro, and yeah, I think I'm gonna be done. I don't know if you were here for the very beginning where I was telling everybody that I think. Oh, you woke up late? Man, I had a crazy night last night. I told you, it's like I got this newborn that all of a sudden decided last night that it was going to fight sleep at every corner. It's not that it wasn't relaxed. It wasn't that at all. It was just that it was constantly awake and constantly just like, I want to go do stuff. I want to go hang out. I want to watch TV. I want to do this. I want to do that. And so like it just did not want to sleep at all. It wasn't crying. It wasn't upset. It was just didn't want to sleep. And so it would sit there and blink its eyes and just be like, oh, I think I'm going to think about sleeping, but then I'm not gonna. Oh, new experiences. They're great. Woke up late, been on neighborhood watch for the week. Oh, man. Well, get some sleep, man. I think we all could use some extra Z's these days, especially with, what we have the opportunity of watching. It's like either we can watch the train wreck or, we can just go catch up on some sleep. Other than that, hey, disabled veteran, thanks for hanging out. Everyone else who's just lurking in the chat, you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day. And I'm going to go see where my kid's at and see if he's finally fallen asleep. Take the spook hat off. All right. Here we go, guys. Hope you like this. I like it. AI lawyers will be the end of all things logical. Or maybe it's so much logic that we won't need it anymore. Lawyers that can't lie? That sounds like something that's illogical at its fundamental level, too. Anyway, Sable Veteran, everyone else who's lurking, I'll see you tomorrow.